When you're in danger, take a look all around, and I'll be there. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be.
I give the CIA a total credit for sponsoring and initiating the entire consciousness movement, counterculture events of the 1960s.
Explore the moon, the planets, and the interplanetary environment of our solar system. To investigate the sun and its relationship to Earth, the geophysical properties of the Earth, and the physical nature of the universe. To determine the biological effects of the space environment on Earth life form, and to search for and analyze extraterrestrial life. To develop experiments for manned space flight, which use the special capabilities of a trained astronaut as a sensor, manipulator, and evaluator. Provide pre-doctoral training for scientists and engineers, and grants for space science research projects and laboratory facilities to best use university resources for the national space effort. To develop and manage geovessels, on which reliable space
I give the CIA a total...
Oops, had that on loop. But welcome back to Rise to Liberty podcast. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, William Ramsey of William Ramsey Investigates. How you doing today, William?
Doing well. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, of course, anytime. So today we wanted to discuss the Manchurian Candidate, the film that I believe it was 1965 or 67.
It was 63. It was
63,
supposed to
wow.
be released right after JFK, is my understanding. Yeah, so
Oh,
based
wow.
on the Richard Condon book, which was
Right.
published in 59.
Let's see. So you did get together a slideshow for everyone. So want to just jump straight into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an incredible film. It's prescient, contains a lot of themes that I think are relevant and often overlooked. But I did some research on it from a hypnotist perspective. So, like a lot of these themes that they were talking about, look, MK Ultra is a big thing in the alternate media, but sometimes
Right.
certain things are overlooked and not maybe looked into with greater detail. This is one of them, and it really does have that thing. The Manchurian Candidate, for people who don't know, references Manchukuo or the Korean War, right? Where it was after World War II, 1950 to 1953. Huge cataclysmic war between communists and capitalists, I guess is the way to put it. The United States bombed the country to smithereens. Like there were no buildings. It was like Gaza of the day, but it was the whole peninsula. And at one point, the U.S. had, before the Chinese got involved as kind of a proxy, the U.S. had pretty much controlled the entirety of Korea. And at the very top of Korea is Manchuria. And it became kind of a known thing in the lore of after Korea, because during that time there were pilots from the U.S. who were captured, and they came back telling really pro-communist stories, and a lot of them looked kind of dazed. So this was kind of the advent of mind control. So right at the very end of Korea was when MK Ultra officially was rubber stamped by the head of the CIA. I think it was Dulles at the time.
Yeah.
And so that was 53. But before that, he had done a talk, I think, in Virginia called Brain Warfare. So this is this book is written in the context after that, but references that very pivotal event, really in kind of world history, where the real Cold War was taking place, and the cultural Cold War as well, which is sometimes overlooked. The cultural aspects to the anti-communist fervor, and that's encapsulated in this film and the book, which is there's a character in there. His name is let me see if I can remember it. His name is Iceland. He is the senator, and he's really a McCarthy-esque figure. He's accusing everybody of communists, and there is communism in this, because this actually kind of has this, but it's almost like both sides are playing everything, because the communists and the capitalists are working together. That's kind of like the real parapolitical twist on the whole thing, is like they should be at each other's throats, but the communists hand over this Raymond Shaw, who is a hypno-programmed assassin, over to his mother. And I mean, this is going to be a total ruin of the total film. So if you haven't seen it, you're going to be in trouble, because we're going to expose everything. But
and you're really missing out if you haven't seen it. We actually just watched it last night, and I've seen it a few times, and it is just a phenomenal film.
It's great. The skill set. So it's directed by John Frankenheimer, who had a lot of TV experience, so he understood kind of cutting and quick movements. And actually, the scene of the hypno-programmed kind of military patrol group in this thing has kind of a TV feel to it. There's a lot of pans, very skilled pans, and it's very clever in the sense that you get the sense of like there's one interpretation, and then there's a hypno programmed kind of patrol group that has another interpretation. But yeah, it stands the test of time. The more I watch this and the more I understand it, you see how sophisticated. One of the interesting things, there's themes that are kind of in our pedophilia, political experience, hypno programs of these assassins that are happening today, like Ruth Mangione. Like, how are these people doing this? People think that this hypno program thing is fiction. They're absolutely wrong. So I think that they were putting this into this film, not really knowing everything. There's other background elements of Manchurian Candidate, not just Condon, but the fact that it was really greenlit by JFK. That's kind of one of the great mysteries. It's not, it didn't come up in something. And who is close friends with JFK? Frank Sinatra, right here on the cover, right? So it's really something that happened at Kennebunkport, right? It's a Kenny, but no, it's Hyannisport. This is kind of like the Kennedy, found like estate, I guess, in Massachusetts. But literally, it was greenlit through JFK, and Sinatra's production company was the one who kind of put everything together. So it was Sinatra who got Frankenheimer and got all these other great actresses. Angela Lansbury, who's just an amazing actress. She was in the original Gaslight, of all things.
Right.
And Janet Leigh had just come off of Psycho. And so that's kind of, and her daughter is Curtis too. It's interesting.
Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah.
Curtis, thank you. So there's a lot of background history of all this, but it's all happening kind of in the context of these friendships, where literally Sinatra was a huge supporter of JFK and campaigned for him vigorously in 1960, the Brat Pack and all this stuff. They said, in my research, they said that Sammy Davis Jr. said Frank's got the White House on speed dial. So he had a very close connection to JFK. Right. And so that's kind of the context of this, where this film came out of. It came out of the book, it came out of the post-Korean conflict, and it came out of the anti-communist fervor of the 50s.
Right.
Anyway, if you want to go to the next slide, that's the film of it. I mean, that's the thing. This is the book cover, kind of a strange Cold War kind of theme of this.
Right.
Go to the next one. That's Richard Condon. Really, his real masterwork really was The Manchurian Candidate. He was formerly, I believe, a TV writer, but he was really, yeah. So that's what Manchuria looks like on a map. Gives people an idea. It's basically communism. The Japanese had conquered it at one point. So Manchuria. And that's how it got its name. The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, I think, is a famous book. I think it's not Bauer. Marx. It's a book by Marx.
Interesting.
And interestingly, Sinatra was in a film with Sterling Hayden. This overlaps with Dr. Strangelove too, which is around the same time. Yeah. There's a bunch of films that came out around this time that were very prescient for the assassination of JFK, if you accept, like I do, that it was a massive conspiracy to kill him on November 22nd, 1963. But this was from 54. Sinatra was in Suddenly, where they have an assassin who's going to rifle a president. So he was in this. It's interesting, these overlaps, but also Hayden was the guy, I think his name was Ripper, I can't remember the main character who was concerned about poisoned water in Dr. Strangelove. But we're in Dr. Strangelove territory right now. So
totally.
Total freakazoid murder, like literally calculating nuclear war, which is what they were doing in 63.
Right.
It's a lot of what this is a thing where fiction is reality. It doesn't mirror or rhyme reality. It actually is a better encapsulation of reality, much like 1984. So the notion may be in people's brains, maybe mine as well, where these are like, this is nonfiction, fiction. Those lines have to be blurred and overlapped in a much more clever way, because these are coming out of real world events. Like, these are things people understood. And so that's why these movies got made. Strangelove. And also another one was called 7 Days in May, that was also recommended and greenlit by and assisted by JFK. He let them shoot on the White House grounds, and it was about a fascist overthrow of the United States. It was basically what happened on November 22nd, 1963. It was a military overthrow. And it's one of the kind of like shortcomings, like people have complained about it in the JFK assassination research community, is that there's kind of like a CIA tunnel vision. And one of the aspects of the JFK assassination is there's military guys all over the place. Curtis LeMay, total maniac, involved in the bombings of Japan and Korea. And one of these strange Lovian figures, Willoughby, the ugly American, whose name I can't remember right now. Just all these guys are all around there too. And they cleverly let other people kind of take the blame, whether it's the mob, but they were all in on it. Everybody wanted JFK dead. It was like the Julius Caesar or something like that.
Right.
Anyway, so this is like the Manchurian Candidate did not come out in some kind of sterile environment. It was like a petri dish of so much bubbling things happening in history and culture. So it's really important, but it's an incredible piece. The other thing that's interesting about the real history of the the movie, is that after it came out, Sinatra pulled it because he had control over it. He pulled it from the public view, and it was never seen for 25 years. This is before VHS, DVD drives, those kind of things. So it was kind of one of these hidden, lost relics.
Is there any reason that people know of why he pulled it?
Yeah, I mean, he said it because it was because of the death, because it's about a political assassination, right? He's supposed to kill the front runner. So like these overlay. So he said it was too eerie to have it out. That was his rationale.
Right. And I don't know if you saw the parallels between this and what happened with Trump before over in what is it, Butler, Pennsylvania. There was a lot of this that just kind of seemed very familiar as I was watching the film last night. It just all seemed like it was repeating itself almost, and then the CIA even came out with a statement after Butler, Pennsylvania, and said the CIA denies conspiracy theory that they used MK Ultra on Thomas Crooks. It's
I'm sure they did.
That's an odd statement to make.
Yeah, why would you make a public statement about that? Why would you even
Right.
care? Why would you have to make a public statement? We know
Right.
who invented the phrase conspiracy theory. It was them.
Right.
So they covered up a lot of stuff. I mean, they lie about everything, so they almost like reflexively lie. They're not clever enough to kind of seed their lies with truths, because almost
Right.
everything they've said publicly is just, it's almost like a gaslighting, mocking lie. Like, we have the information, we just don't care because you're all peasants.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they told, I think it was Helms who came after Dulles, and like he supposedly, like, they had all these hearings in the 70s. He supposedly like burned all the MK Ultra documents. The thing is they had learned everything. Who cares? We're
Right.
past that. Like, these
Right.
people who like go, well, the documents were, there's still documents coming out, and there's probably other documents there. Some of these FOIA requests are incredible. Like, the government has no idea what's in. There was just, this is actually timely. We're going to get to that hopefully if we have time. But it's the RFK drops came out recently, and it ties into Sirhan. Because Frankenheimer was so Sinatra's buddies, close friends with JFK. Frankenheimer, who directed the film, is best friends with RFK.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, you
jeez.
can go to the next. We can go through kind of a slide. This is the key visual element of the Manchurian Candidate, which is the Red Queen, right? And
Right.
we'll see that going into that. But this is the kind of it's in. I think if you go back to the actual first slide, she's the actual kind of thing. Is she in there? Yeah, bottom right.
Yep.
So she's the kind of key trigger for the guy who's hypnotized Raymond Shaw, played by Lawrence Harvey, who passed away at an early age. He was good in this. He had kind of a hypnotized, leaden quality
Yeah.
to him, but
He really did. He kind of just had that look in his
Yeah,
eyes. There was at one point in the film where I believe he's talking to Frank Sinatra, his character, and it's like kind of a close up on his face, and you can just see in his eyes, it just looks like glazed over. And it just, he was very, very, a very talented actor.
yeah, he really was. Yeah, he was in something else famous, but somebody called his acting chilling restraint. So this is like Korea takes place in 1952. The scene and the editing is very clever. I don't know who the editor was or whether it was Frankenheimer, but it didn't it didn't occur linearly, because the events of what happens at the very beginning in Korea is the whole patrol squad is abducted, and they're taken to Manchuria, and they're set and hypnotized. So you don't see the actual hypnotization. It's actually portrayed in Condon's book in much more detail. They kept it out of the movie, and it was a whole nother show was like the differences between Condon's book and the movie. But obviously the medium is the message, and they can't get into some of these details with the same ease and a visual approach. But they're taken and they're put in this kind of stadium where all of the commie heads are there. So it's like people from Russia and China, and they're kind of bickering at each other and competing. They're trying to figure out, it's almost like a lab, because they're learning about whether somebody can be hypnotized, but they're almost in the role of the audience as well. So the audience is on the other side. So it's almost like the third wall is broached, because you're the audience watching what's going on stage, and they're watching it too. So it's a very clever, subtle aspect of this, amongst many others in this book. I mean, in this movie, excuse me, but it's very well thought out. But they are abducted, they're taken somewhere, and when they come to this thing, when they're brought into this thing, it's like they're anesthetized and abducted. But it really starts off, so they have this recurring nightmare, and they don't think it's true. So Sinatra's character, also there's an African American guy who has the same nightmare and reaches out to Raymond Shaw, like, I'm having this nightmare. He actually sends Raymond a letter, if you remember. And he's like, oh, we're having the same nightmare, but they're not sure that it's real or anything.
Right.
But we can just go to the next slide. It starts off, there's an announcer. Raymond Shaw wins the highest award, the Congressional Medal of Honor. And with 5,720,000 personnel engaged, only 77. There's actually Illuminati numbers in this freaking movie, which you like, if you're paying attention and know these illuminated numbers, you're like, whoa, so 77. This is actually the announcer. One of these 77 men was Staff Sergeant Raymond Shaw. He was returned, and he was awarded his Medal of Honor at the White House by the President of the United States. And it was attested to by Sinatra's character, which is very important. And they were MIA for days. And you'll see this in these other, I mean, we can get there, but it gets
right.
This is, I mean, they're laying out the background of behavioral modification. Like there's a certain phase in this behavioral modification where people just use the term MK Ultra because they're gestalting it all, but it's much more complex. It's much more well known. It really goes back to history of kind of behavior modification, hypnotism, Pavlov in Russia, St. Petersburg before World War II, Esther Brooks.
And they mentioned Pavlov quite a bit in the film.
Yeah, they do.
It's like the Pavlov Institute.
Yes.
And everything. And I mean, that's kind of like the foundation of at least modern behavior modification.
Very, very much so. A lot of stuff. Pavlov, the dogs start salivating, right? They're like drowned dogs, to like really hardcore tests, but then they extrapolate that to humans. But yeah, they do mention Pavlov quite a bit. But you can go to the next one. But this is the background: is he's lauded in this film. He's not a likable character at all. By the way, he's kind of a dour, jerky, rich kid, maybe. I mean, there's sequences of him on Park Avenue in Central Park, which we can get to, which ties into Chapman and Mangione. Like, you can't even write this stuff. Like, it's really crazy. But they're literally off of Central Park, and it ties into the Cultural Cold War and The Catcher in the Rye. Keep going back. More Illuminati numbers. 311. He wakes up from his terrifying dream. He's chain smoking. This is Marco, aka Sinatra, and this is the sequence that they're leading off to his dream. So he's dreaming about them being in their kind of hypno-programmed thing. Go to the next one. So this is really the sequence. The guy on the far left is actually Italian. His name is Silva, but he's like a B movie actor who always played the tough guys, but he shows up here. And he shows up as the assassin, and he fights Sinatra in one sequence. But then to the right of, the left of Sinatra or the right is Harvey, and then that's Bobby, who Harvey is going to shoot in the forehead. Right. But they're all kind of drugged or they're hypnotized, and that's what's going on. And there's like Silva's taking notes, or I forgot his name, but yeah, you can go to the next one. And there's Dr. Lowe behind, Stalin and Mao, right? So I think Stalin was still alive in 52, and Mao was definitely still alive. And they're all kind of in the day state, but they're being looked at by all these bigwigs from Russia and China. And they're asking questions too. They're kind of like trying to figure out what's going on. So it's a patrol group. Dr. Yen Lo is front and center giving a lecture. The lecture is very interesting because it actually encapsulates a lot of the things that people or researchers, high level, he's a doctor in the film, but a lot of these people who think about it, a lot of the people who were involved in they call it the golden age of psychiatry. A lot of those guys had really standard jobs, but on the side, they were doing this side research into what was known as MK Ultra and very high level stuff, like stuff that's was above board, and we know some of the stuff, but some is top secret. We'll never know it. There was Jose Delgado out of Yale, which is it's kind of a nexus point of a lot of evil, but he was the guy who put implants into bulls and made them stop. And he hinted that experiments were done, and that's all he would say, He wouldn't go in detail. So so much stuff is classified post-war, World War II. So Americans who think that they have all the knowledge and everything's been divulged and the CIA burned up all the documents, it's preposterous. There's a lot of stuff we just don't know. The high technology, a lot of stuff about the The MK Ultra was like the Manhattan Project in the sense that it was farmed out and compartmentalized. So even these guys, like people get like you and Cameron out of Canada or Jolly West, always get these bad raps. They're not really great people, but they're really
Right.
more of functionaries of a larger system. And
Right.
the real dark hearts are the guys at the very top: Dulles, Helms, Rockefellers, believe it or not.
Right. Yeah, who funded the whole thing?
Oversaw and funded, had the money,
Yeah.
and it's the leader guys. So anyway, Dienlo, when he's talking, there's the dialogue is really important. It's pregnant with meaning and a lot. So he's letting them smoke, but he doesn't tell them they're smoking yak dung, right? So they're literally sitting there smoking like animal
Right.
excrement, but casual. And this is actually reflective of a lot of these stage magic hypnotists that used to be around with greater frequency. They started getting sued because people were doing things without their consent, because you can't really
Right.
have full conscious consent if you get hypnotized or talk to bark like a dog or walk around like a chicken. But these used to actually be things. They used to literally be, and you can go see old shows of hypnotists. One of the interesting things of like the hypnotists, it's like this. They used to invite people up on the stage. So they would say, "Can I have 20 volunteers?" And then they go through and then they would send people back to the audience. And the reason why that is that some people, there's a scale of hypnotizability, and there's a lot of variance going on. There's a lot of things they can do, but like some people are very easily hypnotized, and some people you could stare at them and dangle a time watch or whatever, and they just would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, I don't care. So a lot of those things are there's subtle things you can learn from even those kind of magical hypnotist shows, which they do have a couple of them to this day in Las Vegas, believe it or not. But this is kind of the same kind of thing. So he's got them all there. They're hypnotized. They're smoking yak dung. Here's the end low. He says, "Allow me to introduce our American visitors. I must ask you to forgive their somewhat lackadaisical manners, but I've conditioned them, brainwashed them," which I understand is the new American word. "They believe they are waiting out a storm in the lobby of a small hotel in New Jersey where a meeting of the Ladies' Garden Club is in progress." So that's the interesting circular pan that Frankenheimer did at the beginning, where there's the women, they're all dressed up, they're talking in the same language. Then they come back around and there's Dr. Lowe and the officials from the Soviets and Mao. So they're doing that, and he's talking in Congress. "Now then, comrades, may I present to you the famous Raymond Shaw, the young man you've flown 8,000 miles to this dreary spot in Manchuria." Raymond pulled, so they know that they already know Shaw is important. So this isn't random. That's like the parapolitical twist. And it kind of actually emulates, like in an eerie way, Lee Harvey Oswald, who went to freaking Russia for some mysterious thing, ended up in a hospital in Minsk, and then is allowed back in. Like, this is great. Like, whoa, like this really did happen in real life. Like literally around the time this movie is being made, produced, and released. Like, you cannot write this stuff. It's like they're emulating this without I don't doubt they knew Oswald, but like they're literally, it's emulating this event. Yenlo, "I'm sure you've heard the old wives' tale that no hypnotized subject may be forced to do that which is repellent to his moral nature." That's the big question of hypnotism. That's the big question. Can you get somebody to do something outside of their control? And a lot of like people said at the front, "No, we can't do that." There's CIA doctors say that. There's other doctors like William Joseph Bryan, who was a consultant on this film, who said, with the right training, the right amount of time, or Klein was another one out there. This another MK doc. They said, with the right amount of drugs, the right amount of time, we can get anybody to do anything. So there's deliberate like non-conformity in opinion regarding the stuff. Whatever that means, nonsense, of course. "Oh, note takers might set down a reminder." And so then like he starts referencing academic papers. There's a lot of academic papers on the subject. If people look into it, there's guys writing really serious, heavy duty, top level academic stuff. Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, Cornell. These big universities were writing like hypnotism is an issue. Esther Brooks is right there. Where is he? He's not at Princeton, somewhere in New York. But he's like
Cornell,
writing
I
these
think.
what's that?
Cornell, I believe.
Cornell, yeah, I believe you're right. Which Jolly West spent some time at Cornell too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of this stuff is like it's there, but it's just like there's obviously a secret history. So
Right.
Yen Lo continues. Oh, you note takers might set down a reminder, consult Brenman's paper Experience in the Hypnotic Production of Antisocial and Self-Injurious Behavior, or Wells's 1941 paper, which is titled, I believe, Experiments in the Hypnotic Production of Crime. Or, of course, Andrew Salter's remarkable book, Conditioned Reflex Therapy, to name only 3. So it's like the reflection is really the real kind of public dispute about hypnotism, which is a huge subject in itself. It's very topical just to call it hypnotism because there's a lot involved. It's very sophisticated and complex. I mean, there's just like any subject matter, you can get really heavy duty in it.
Right.
But this movie in the book is a reflection of this. It's really just off the charts. Or if it offends you that only the West is working to manufacture more crime, right? So he's putting it in the context of the Cold War. And better criminals against modern shortages, I suggest Presnikovsky's primary violence motivation or Sarab's the unilateral suggestion to self-destruction. So this is foreshadowing the movie, what's happening in the movie.
Right.
And if you're not really, I mean, you could watch this a couple times and not get this, but if you look at the dialogue in the context of after watching the movie, this starts to ring a bell. The connections are made because Shaw has a self-destructive code, right?
Right.
At the very end. Mr. Yen Lo is then interrupted by the attendee. My dear Yen, as you grow older, you grow more long-winded. Can you get to the point? Has the man ever killed anyone, or is he not? Yen Lo, Dmitri, I keep forgetting that you are a young country and your attention span is limited. So he's bagging on the Russians.
Yeah.
Tell me, Raymond, have you ever killed anyone? No, ma'am. So Raymond is in the context of thinking that it's a woman. So he's responding to her. Raymond, who do you like the least in your group here today? The least? Well, Captain Marco. So he doesn't like Sinatra. Ed Mavoli, take this scarf and strangle Mavoli. So he walks over and strangles Mavoli, this one guy. And then that sequence ends. And it goes from the sequence goes to Sinatra telling the story of his bad dreams to like a bunch of bigwigs at some military base or something like that. And there's a consulting psychiatrist there, military psychiatrist, who asks him what his opinion of Shaw is, and Marco / Sinatra says, Raymond Shaw is the kindest, bravest, warmest, most wonderful human being I've ever known in my life.
Right.
And that is a post-hypnotic suggestion or an implant or something like this has happened where people respond in a very rote thing. And you'll see.
And even his character even points out that in somewhere in the back of his mind, he knows that that's not true.
That's right. So, and the conditioning is all there. So if Yen Lo's talking about conditioning, then it pops back. They pop back to the sequence. And then Yen Lo tells Shaw to shoot Bobby in the forehead, which he does. Then the African-American guy wakes up. I can't remember his name. He gets his wife's consoling him. And then she says, why don't you reach out to Raymond Shaw? And the black guy says, Raymond Shaw is the kindest, bravest, warmest, most wonderful human being I've ever known in my life. So he says it back. So then they go to Shaw going on Park Avenue, or some big street. It's clearly off of Central Park, which, I mean, ties into, like I already mentioned. But he's farting around. Somebody gives him a call. And Raymond, why don't you pass the time playing solitaire? If you read some of these other books, which I used to think were not credible, one is Candy Jones and her stories. She said that they would trigger people over the phone. Like that's written in her book before this movie came out. So the Queen of Diamonds is played. It triggers something in the mind. It's a symbol that triggers the mind of Raymond Shaw. And then all of a sudden he has some kind of mysterious accident. He ends up attraction in a communist safe house. And they keep and then Yen Lo comes in. He says, Dr. Lo, Pavlov Institute, right? So they've got the whole Pavlovian thing. he's got the Queen of Diamonds. You can go maybe switch the slides. Yeah. So this is the woman who's the man, but she's holding like a dagger. So it's kind of it's a great kind of sequence, I think.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting because I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but the way that all of the soldiers are looking at this is they are at this meeting with all the women and not the leaders, correct?
Right. They think they're with women.
Right.
So here's the black guy. That's what he says. You know, Raymond Shaw is the kindest, bravest, warmest, most wonderful human being in my life. He gets the phone call. He repeatedly plays solitaire through this.
Yeah. He has that trigger. It was something. Why don't you relax and play a game of solitaire or something?
Yeah, pass the time by playing solitaire.
Yeah.
Right. One of the interesting things in my research is there was something I read. This is so creepy. There's something that I read about Bill Clinton. No, it was about Manchurian Candidate, but the intro was about Bill Clinton, where they would sit him in a corner and he would just play solitaire by himself.
Oh,
have you ever heard that?
I have not.
Yeah, no, it's really eerie. I'm trying to see if I can find a reference.
Oh,
like,
that's so weird.
Yeah, let's set Bill in the corner and have him play solitaire by himself.
Right.
Let me see if
I can so weird.
See if I can pull up this clip. Have you ever seen Clinton as a puppeteer? Let me see this. This will freak you out. Like, let's see. Can you play this?
Yeah, let's see. You might have to remove that.
Yeah, play that.
Here we go. Yeah, that stone cold look on his face.
Dead-eyed. Look at those eyes, man. And then he's
so
waiting
weird.
to be turned on. Like once the camera lights are on, he's back to normal. But look at that off camera.
Right.
Like, wow.
It's just
that's his normal self, like the charming Bill. But like, this is stuff you don't see behind the camera, which is really super disturbing, man. Anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, he was clearly programmed in some sense.
He's like curated, like he's like Obama, where somebody's watching over him or something weird. Like I don't have the answer to that, but like he's like from a small town in Little Rock, and his mom is like a server at a bar.
Right.
Like, how does he get into Georgetown and become a Rhodes Scholar?
Right.
And he was the head of the. It just shows how they can manipulate the whole system. He was like the attorney general for Arkansas when he was 29. And got into Yale. It's the same thing that happened with Hunter Biden. Like Hunter Biden's a junkie. He went to Yale Law School. Like, what's going on with this? This doesn't make any sense.
So this is something I thought you would find interesting. This was something I found in my research. It was actually the very first use of the word brainwashing in newspaper. It was the Miami Herald in 1958, September 24th. And before this, we didn't use the word brainwashing. Like that wasn't in our lexicon. And this was the very first use of it in anywhere, really. And what's interesting, the author also has intelligence ties. So imagine that.
Who's the author?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I could get it for you though.
You can just zoom in. Can you zoom into that? Because it'll tell you. It's up on the top left. I just can't read it now.
Miami
Edward
Sunday
Hunter.
News. Yep. Yeah. He has intelligence ties, which I found incredibly interesting. You know, what are the odds of that?
Right. Yeah, I'm not surprised. So this is an interesting sequence too, because it's more of he's at a safe house, Yenlo, with some other Russian, right? So it's like the communist, adversaries are together. Right. But Yenlo says something very interesting to him. He says to this other Russian guy who I can't remember, "Do you realize, comrade, the implications of the weapon that has been placed at your disposal? A normally conditioned American who has been trained to kill, then to have no memory of having killed. Without memory of his deed, he can also not possibly feel guilt, nor have any reason to fear being caught. And having been relieved of these uniquely American symptoms, guilt and fear, he cannot possibly give himself away. Raymond will remain an outwardly normal, productive, sober, and respected member of the community, and I should say, if properly used, entirely police-proof. His brain has not only been washed, as they say, it has also been dry cleaned. Ha ha ha."
Oh, that's so weird.
And so this is 2 years after he left Korea in 52. So it's 54. And he also mentions, you want to make sure the linkages are working correctly before he's turned over to his American operators. So here's the turnover to the American operators again. So this guy is literally a trained hypno-programmed assassin. Like, there's no question about it.
Right. Yeah, and I did find it like incredibly odd too when he told him to remove his head bandage.
Right. Yeah, that's.
And then he like checks his eyes and then just tells him to put it back on. Like, it was just such a weird little
sequence.
Weird little sequence, because I mean the bandage is fake, so
Right.
it was just really odd,
Here's the sequence of him killing Bobby. So like the editing is really clever, I think, in this film. Goes back and forth. I'm trying to remember. This is the kind of end sequence where Sinatra deprograms Shaw and shows him all the queens, and then literally gives him suggestions to stop this. And I mean, there's a lot more to this film. I don't know if we have time, but
yeah,
literally
we have as much time as you have. So
yeah, well, I got about 10 minutes. So then Shaw at the end is supposed to kill the presidential contender, but he kills his mom and his stepdad, the senator,
right,
and then kills himself. So the self-destruct code that's mentioned by Yen Lo at the beginning is the ending, right?
Right. Which
so, like,
I thought was in a really interesting a way to end the film on.
Yeah, it's not a positive ending, right? Like,
no, not really.
Shaw doesn't pop out and like everything's copacetic, but he finally breaks what's tormenting him in some ways,
Well, and his, spoiler alert for everyone who hasn't seen a film this old, but his mother ended up being his programmer, because which was really interesting, because they make reference earlier in the film about the Red Queen being an image of his mother.
Right.
And then there's like this whole connection between him and his mother, and how they have this friction. She's like this overbearing woman who controls his life, and then she ends up being the one that controls him.
Right. She's the one who controls him to kill their political rival to get the guy into power. She's the queen. She's the Red Queen, right? Just like you said.
Right.
And she's the kind of one who frustrates his love life, which is why he
Right.
hates her, because he's in love with this beautiful other woman whose name is, I can't remember, which is another kind of interesting side thing, because they send him out to kill her and her dad, right? They're kind of opposition. They're played off as oppositional people. Like the dad is a journalist, right? And I forgot her name. It's not on my list. Leslie Parrish is her name. It's kind of like that's the only time Shaw's happy is he's when he's with Leslie Parrish. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Parrish is her name.
Yeah.
No, that's the actor's name in the film. It's
Right,
Jocelyn
right.
Jordan, and Thomas Jordan. But he goes out and kills them both, and he's actually walking over a checkerboard, right?
Yes.
So he's walking over the black and white tiles.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting symbolism in this. There's also
the checker. Sorry, real quick. Just that was the checkerboard where he killed both of them, and it's just so striking because obviously the black and white film, and so it's just you can't ignore that. And then her dad Jocelyn's dad was actually drinking milk, and he shot straight through the carton of milk into him, which I also found incredibly interesting.
Interesting. The other thing is, like, there's a sequence where they go out for a drink, and Shaw goes in and asks for some solitaire cards, and he's playing solitaire. And this is Central Park, and he's playing solitaire in the background. The bartender's talking, and he says the number 11, and then like the number of magic, number of the New World Order, and then Shaw takes out the Red Queen, and then he's programmed. He hears what's going on in the background. He hears the number 11, and like then he went and jumping in water, and the suggestion hits Shaw, and he goes over to Central Park and jumps in the lake.
Right.
Remember that
Yeah,
sequence?
and
And then Sinatra's like, "What the hell are you doing?" He doesn't understand.
Right. And I thought that was really interesting because supposedly the bartender uttered the phrase about solitaire. He was telling the other bar patron, "Don't play poker. You know, it's not good for you. You don't win. If I were you, I would get another lane of interest or something like that." And then he utters the phrase about solitaire, and then that's what he asked for the deck. And it's he utters that phrase by accident and triggers the Manchurian.
Triggers him. Now there isn't like, if you remember, like Catcher in the Rye, where does Catcher in the Rye end up? It ends up in Central Park. It ends up at the lake, at the carousel, and with his themes of pedophilia are in there. And in the book, the theme of there's actually a sequence where Lansbury kisses Shaw, her son, on the lips. Right. But in the book, they have a incestual relationship, like literal, and that's why he hates his mom, because she's in the place of his real, what should be his real love life with Jocelyn Jordan, right? So it's even creepier, like, because he really is her pawn, like she is the queen and is a pawn. The chess metaphor,
and that seems to tie back into like Monarch, Project Monarch, you know. What is it? I'm blanking on the word. Generational, you know, traumatic mind control.
Traumatic mind control, right? Trauma, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes deep. So it's like a background for a lot of what happened. So what happened, like this Oswald is in Russia and comes to the United States. There's real questions about Oswald, but this is replayed in this film and book. It's somebody comes from the communist and that's one of the whole things that covers Oswald, is that he's actually a commie sympathizer. He's just washed. He was washed in communism, kind of like Raymond Shaw. So fiction beats reality meets fiction.
Right.
Frankenheimer goes on. He's close friends with RFK. RFK is campaigning in California, trying to get the nomination, right, to become president. He's always wrapped up in his brother's death. He said things very inflammatory. I'm a revolutionary. He has that same kind of civil rights outlook. He's headed for the White House. He's up against Johnson decides not to run, right? So it's like, who's going to be on the right? I think it was either Nixon or somebody like that. But he stays with all his celebrity friends. He has a lot of celebrity friends. Some of his celebrity friends? John Frankenheimer, who's in LA. And Frankenheimer has these salons with all these other kind of important. One of Frankenheimer's friends is Warren Beatty, who is like a big womanizer actor. He's at these parties with these guys, and then goes on to make one of the most paranoid of all paranoiac films of all time, Parallax View, in 1974, which reflects a lot of the storyline, right?
Well, and then that Warren Beatty, I mean, that connects directly to Laurel Canyon.
Absolutely.
Which opens up a whole can of worms.
Frankenheimer then drives RFK to the Ambassador Hotel the night of his murder. He is he doesn't just drive him, he drops him off there and stays. And he is there, and the night of that assassination, literally Sirhan, according to Frankenheimer, brushes by him and walks into him. So
Wow.
Sirhan, yeah. And so Sirhan, and he had these questions about other people at night, and he's like, "Do you think that movie I made, the Manchurian Candidate, could really be true?" And they're like, "Yes." Sirhan is nowhere close to RFK when he's dead. He's probably more like 6 feet away in front of him.
Right.
And Noguchi says the kill shot came behind. That kill shot, like a lot of that autopsy, was not divulged to the public. RFK was hated, just like JFK. People hated those guys' guts for whatever reason. But Sirhan's still in an institution. It's very timely because RFK, these new docs just dropped. People are going through them. I'm looking at them now. But also his assassination was June 8th, I think, of 68. It was my notes. His assassination was Wednesday, June 5th, 1968. So we just passed an anniversary.
Right.
But anyway, Frankenheimer goes to the funeral of RFK. RFK dies in a couple days. And then his whole life is just wrecked. He literally left the United States. He was so freaked out. He left the United States and like went on a massive bender for years. Like he was really never the same. He never achieved his. He was kind of like a B-stringer director, but he was a mess. He was literally, I mean, you can't blame him. He had a kind of a nervous breakdown and his career was derailed, all from this Sirhan RFK's close friend getting shot. And it ties into his early work of Manchurian Candidate. Like, this is the real history, guys. This is it. They called it creative disruption. Never had the thing. He was in exile. He kind of came back in the late 70s, but none of his films were as good as that. I'm trying to think.
That kind of seems like they stripped him of what made him a good director. Because, creativity comes from somewhere within, and although tragedy does usually create beautiful art, it kind of seems like he never bounced back from that.
Yeah, I don't think he did. But there's a lot. I mean, I can do a full break. I don't have the time, but we can do a full breakdown on the movie. It's just that these correlations and Sirhan, I've done shows on Sirhan. Clearly, he was tampered with. He's almost like a same model as Oswald, both 24, like crazy, like young. And it ties into some of these young guys. Mangione is very suspicious. There are very strange things about Mangione, Crooks, and what's the other guy's name who's from Hawaii? It was what was the guy who went all the way to Florida?
Ruth.
Ruth.
I can't remember.
His name is Ruth, Routh. But it's still relevant because Bibi Netanyahu is just lying straight out and saying these people were brought to the United States by Iran. What a joke!
Right.
I mean, it's just, but Trump believes it. You can't tell what Trump says whether he really believes it or not because he's such a pathological BSer. But he at least is saying he thinks that the Iranians sent the assassins, which is like, this is just cover. And that's the whole cover they did for Oswald that said he was a communist.
Right.
But he had total intel background.
Yeah.
He was from the military. He was in the Marines. He was at Sugi Air Force Base. So
yeah, I mean, that is interesting. I do highly recommend anyone go watch this film. Yeah. You can definitely watch it several times over and see something new every time. I just
really
noticed
well done,
it really is. It's a really well done film, and for anyone that wants to just go watch it for free, I think you can find it on Pluto, which is where we watched it. Although it's with ads, but
I found it. I actually think you can download it off WikiLeaks or Archive. You can go to archive.org.
Oh,
and get
okay.
it for free. Yeah, archive.org has the full thing for free.
Right. I mean,
it's a historical piece. I mean, you got to put it in context. These paranoid movies were paranoid for a reason, and people were paranoid for good reason, and this is one of them. But it was. Can you imagine like taking it out of circulation for 25 years? Like, this is such an important film for me. Like, it's really important. Like, if you know the real history, the real underground history of America, not this kind of claptrap they sell you to teach you in school.
Well, and before we get out of here, one thing I wanted to touch on real quick. Have you ever heard of Lieutenant Commander Narut?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, Lieutenant Commander Narut openly admitted at a NATO conference that Navy programs are actually programming Manchurian candidates. He said this out in the open, and it made headlines everywhere.
It made headlines, and then he had to bring it back. But it's actually
Right.
it figures in. It's mentioned in McGowan's Program to Kill. That's why I know that.
Right. Yeah,
See if I can
and
find some.
I think that's a really incredible admission. And what's even more interesting about how he walked it back is he releases this information, admits that the Navy is programming Manchurians, and also not only that, but taking, let's see here, let's remove that, admitting that they are programming serial killers as well, which is why I believe McGowan included it in PTK. And he disappears for an entire week and then comes back the following week and walks back everything he said.
Right. And look at his CV. He has a majored in clinical psychology and educational psychology. So he's got the
Right.
psychological background. If you look at these MK Ultra doctors, they look like this. They have like
Yep.
they look the same. Their studies, his dissertation on psychological stress has generated considerable interest. So he knows what stress does. That's what they do. That's another word for traumatic mind control. They put people under stress and see what it does to them.
Yeah.
It's the same freaking
Just
thing.
huge
There's another
amounts
one,
of
yeah.
stress. And yeah, I find that
Much
incredibly
less.
interesting, and I find it crazy because the things that Narut ended up admitting to before he walked it back were the things that Stanley Kubrick ended up putting in, and ended up putting in
Or Clockwork
the
Orange.
Clockwork Orange. Their eyes peeled open, forcing them to watch certain things, and it's like, how did Kubrick know that? Well, during what was the film we just mentioned of his
Clockwork Orange?
Doctor
Strangelove.
Strangelove? One thing I found out about that film recently is he tried getting permission to access to a B-2 bomber, but the intelligence community wouldn't let him. So what him and his set production designer did is they sat down and they went through magazines like Air Force magazines and stuff like this, and they got the bomber in the movie so correct that the FBI end up showing up on set and investigating them and saying, how did you get this? Did somebody leak information to you? And I think that was like the intro into Kubrick working with the feds. So because after that comes A Clockwork Orange, 2001, and The Shining.
Right.
So
And then after 2001, he gets the funk out, like Frankenheimer gets out of the country. Like these guys flee, like they're terrified. Like something gets close to them, their bone, their blood turns to ice.
Right.
Yeah, Narut is one of the kind of side elements that's very important. And I mean, that's the whole thing, is like the average person, like, what's the U.S. Navy doing involved in this? Well, like, they're all involved in all kinds of dark stuff,
Right.
man.
Right.
Anyway,
And
have you seen my presentation on Catcher in the Rye?
I watched the interview you did with Austin of
Yeah, that's kind of one, because it does tie into this other thing. Clockwork Orange, one of the guys who shot Wallace, right, who after
right.
RFK and stuff, he was watching A Clockwork Orange supposedly a week before,
Oh,
and he said I'm gonna emulate this.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's this is a more recent theme in some of my work, where the fiction is more real than the reality.
Right.
Like that.
Now,
and that's this film for me.
Now, Catcher in the Rye, although that's not really what we're talking about, but is it true that book is an explanation of how you become a Mason? Is it like the step by step?
There's clearly an element of Masonic lore in that. There's no question
Right.
about it. He, for some reason, this main character who's totally superficial and is totally self-absorbed. For some reason, he walks into the Museum of Natural History, which really does exist, off of the Central Park in Manhattan, and decides to go see an Egyptian element. So he's like goes downstairs, and there's all this Egyptian stuff. So it's really dark. When you really, as an adult, like once you get as paranoid as I am, and you read that book, it's crazy that it's been sold. Everybody has to read it. And then it's like had 65 million books sold. Like, it's incredible because
I read it in high school.
There's repetitive phrases in there. He's clearly got schismogenesis. He's dissociated. He's got almost every psychological problem imaginable. And he's a frustrated, angry person. And he wants to catch people and beat their brains out. So like this word of catch, the overlays to this film are really fascinating because the hypnotic element of this, one of the hypnotic elements I may not have emphasized, which I went into, is that the queen is there symbolically in the cards, but there are people who represent the queen, his mom, and then his girlfriend walks in wearing the red queen outfit.
Yes.
So like he's in a hypnotic subject, he's confused by these symbols. And that's kind of what is in this Catcher in the Rye, where the catcher is multiple things. He wants to conserve he's obsessed with little kids, which is weird, but also he wants to he's in this Masonic context, and he sees the word FU, and that's his trigger to get really angry and want to catch somebody and beat their brains out. Holden Caulfield's super violent. Like, if people say that he's some kind of hero, he's a anti-hero. He's a really horrible person. Anyway, we could do another show on that. I gotta run.
This is a interesting comment on our way out. Plus rye, ergot, and LSD, which is where LSD is derived from. That's a very interesting connection there. But hey, William, thank you so much for coming on. I definitely want to get you back because I want to get into the West Memphis 3.
Yeah,
I know that's a big thing for you. I know you've released a book on it, and that's one of the cases that really upsets me. It gets me hot under the collar. So
why?
Well, because of the way that HBO released that documentary, and there were just so many people defending Damien Eccles, and there was so much hidden from the public. His mental records and everything that came before the trial, and there were just so many things. And because of the narrative that these were just boys that liked heavy metal, and they were wrongly accused, it's just really upsetting.
It's a total lie. They're in on it,
right?
Like HBO, as far as my opinion, is in on it. And a lot of these media things, it just shows how corrupt the media is. Like, willfully lying to the public, in my opinion. Like, this is easily discernible stuff. You can type in West Memphis 3 court records, and all you have to do is read. So these people are ostensibly intelligent, and then you kind of go in, and it's just a who's who of Hollywood freaks and trash people.
Right.
So they're I mean, I think these guys are them, but you have to ask the question, like, why are these people covering? I have pictures of both Berlinger and Sinofsky, the directors, hanging out with like Baldwin, who's like a central figure. Like, there's no objectivity.
Right.
I mean, and it's there's no way they could have gotten where they were without all this Hollywood support, which is a really dark and disturbing element of the story, and a lot overlooked part of the story is that whole thing, because they had very powerful, very rich people, Peter Jackson, Johnny Depp, who supported them, and you have to ask the question why.
Right. Well, that's definitely something for another interview. I really deeply appreciate you coming on, taking the time. It was definitely a pleasure. And anyone else, while you're watching this, head on over to risetoliberty.store. Go check out some of our new mind control merch. Cool little fun design. If you want to help out what I'm doing over here, head on over to risetoliberty.com/coffee, and you can go buy me a coffee. Keep me caffeinated while I'm doing all of this research and getting these interviews scheduled and everything. And let's see here. Anything you would like to plug, William?
you can see for till the next show. You can read Abomination, Devil Worship, and Deception, and the West Memphis Three Murders. You can have 5 other books available on Amazon. You can go to my podcast, William Ramsey Investigates, and I have 5 documentaries and a lot of stuff that I've reposted that since was censored and then reposted on my X and my Patreon. So you can see Eccles talking about drinking blood, his witch stuff, all his magic and occultism. If you really want to have a bad day, and that's all the stuff that they covered up. Hollywood freaks covered up, and you'll want to if you really do the research into Abomination West Memphis 3, you will look at the average Hollywood producer as a mix of a monster and just the most horrible people in the world. Just like what they did is horrible. They deified the criminals. This is what's happening on the left too, which is really satanic inversion from a Christian perspective. That's what they did, and they made 3 real monsters look like angels of light, and it's inexcusable.
Right. I completely agree. Completely agree. So yeah, we'll get on that next stream. Thank you once again. William's links are down below, and everyone else, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, share, follow, all of those good things to stick a middle finger up to our big tech overlords.
Yeah.
And until next time, I
gotta go get all right, Jacob, take care. Thanks.
You as well.
Send me the audio. I'll repost it.
You got it. You got it.
See
ya. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be getting him back as soon as we possibly can. One thing I do want to play real quick. Let's see. I wasn't going to do this, but you know what? Let's just do it anyways. It's just a quick little video to end this out on. So here we go. Let's play this real quick. All right. And with that, I think we are going to get out of here. Once again, hit the this is the movie that made my wife believe conspiracy theories. Hey, sometimes that's exactly what it takes. Um, and you know what? It's a pretty good one if that's the one that, got her convinced. So, on that, hit the like, hit the subscribe, share, follow, all of these things. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about this? Have you seen the movie? Once again, go to archive.org. You can go find the movie for free. In fact, after the show, I'll go find it and I will paste it in the episode description. I will post it to my X account so people can find it. Go watch this movie. It is a wonderful film. Just watched it last night and you will not regret it. So, but I need your guys' help to get this show out further. They've done everything they can to block me, shadow ban me, derank, all of these things. So the best thing you can do, once again, like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know down below. What did you think of the movie? How did you like this interview with William? Do you want him back? I want to get him back and talk about the West Memphis 3. As you can see, it kind of got him fired up right there at the end. This is a case I think that needs to be covered. So until next time, stay free, my friends.